Alright everybody, how yous doing? Hope yous are all keeping well and getting ready for Christmas. I'm all set as can be for a single dad bringing up a 12-year-old on his own, as you do, not them. Um, Cheers to everybody subbing and leaving positive comments and all that stuff. Shout out to Big Jerry and Murray Boy for Black Cow, two good boys. Um, so obviously I'm still on my 7 day ban, right? But by the time you see this, it'll be finished because obviously I'm going to just drop my videos, which will probably be all the Christmas period, you know what I mean? But like, I'm not expecting them to sit and watch my fucking ugly mug all the Christmas period, but to each their own, innit? If you want to, you can, and if you don't, you can just see it whenever you see it. Um, Before I get into this case that I want to speak about, um, I have been going down the Luke Mitchell rabbit hole. You bastards, man! You had to pick this case with all these fucking ins and outs, and every time you think you're going through one door, it leads to another three doors. You know what I mean? But it's all good, innit? I'll So I've been researching this the past 3 days non-stop, man. It was like I just couldn't. I don't know. It's like I dug with a fucking bone. I get like that with some things, and I know a lot of people were asking about it and um, commenting about it. Do I know him? Do I know anything about it? Can I do a video on it? Blah blah blah. And at first I was just kind of, I don't know anything about it. I don't know him. I don't want to talk about it, sort of thing. But it's a channel about prison, true crime, how people get their life together after prison, all these different subjects. So I will do a video about it when I feel that I've researched it enough to be able to speak about it. Um, it's a very complex, in-depth case, so I want to kind of at least half know what I'm talking about. So just keep your eyes peeled, and I'll try and get it sorted as soon as. Got kind of stuff happening in the new year, which I'm quite excited about. Also, I'm anxious about it as well. Like, I'll get into it when it starts happening, but um, quite excited as well as I says, as well as a bit anxious. You know, it's no shit I'm used to. Like, just know what I'm used to at all. um, but it's all good. You know, things are starting to happen, and I think sometimes these maybe these videos are helping people see that maybe know me or that have known me or known of me. It's helping them see a side of me that they didn't know about. So it's quite ironic. um, it's all good. It's all happening, and I'm very thankful. Let's say after all this shit that's been happening, fair been it. It's just been one thing after another. Do you know what I mean? So it's good. It's like I'm finally got to turn the page into a new chapter and all this kind of stuff. So I'm very kind of excited about it. Might not be coming across like that, the new, but I'm like that. Um, so I want to talk about a case that you've probably never heard of, or if you have heard it, you might not remember it. And the reason that I remembered it was because it actually the perpetrator committed the offence in England and committed suicide in Glasgow, right? And that was how I remembered it, because he committed suicide in a very unusual way, right? So I remember I was in Shorts NIC, right? It was January 2005. So I'm just like, maybe I've not even been sentenced that long, right? Um, hadn't even been sentenced a year by this point, right? But I'd been in for 2003, and so obviously I'd made the decision, knuckle down. I wanted to do an open university degree. That was my plan, right? Um, and I was in the very, very early stages of applying, but obviously I'd been hitting education and shots every day, never missed a session, was just smashing all these. I was taking any course they would fucking give me, basically, right? Taking a build a supporting application for a Open University degree because the Scottish Prison Service fund it, and they have to see evidence that you're disciplined enough to do it and good enough to be able to handle that level of studying. So it was early doors, but no. And there was this appeal for information, a missing lassie in England, right? Her name was Sally Geeson, right? She was a forensic science student, I believe, at a university somewhere in Cambridgeshire. And this poor lassie had went missing at New Year's Day. So New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day, right? And I remember taking an interest in it, just for the sole, even just the sole reason she was a student, and identified with it through that. And the parents were appealing for information. She'd went missing on a night out, so New Year's Eve party in Cambridge town centre, whatever. And with being this time of year, obviously, and the fact that I kind of remembered the fact that the suspect had committed suicide in Glasgow, right? Because obviously I want to come on and talk about different stuff, different cases, and also remember these innocent victims as well, you know what I mean? Poor lassie doing her studying on a night out this time of year, a couple of years back, and some predators lured her into a car, posing as a taxi driver, took her somewhere where he's brutally raped her and he's killed her, right? Strangulation or asphyxiation, one of the two, right? I think he's maybe throttled her. And so the thing is, but when she got in this guy's car who's posed as a taxi driver, I think she's realised soon after getting in the vehicle, because she was sending texts to somebody's phone, I think it was a friend, saying please help, please send help, right? Which is kind of chilling when you think about it, man. This lassie's being driven to her death by a fucking predator, right? She must have knew something was seriously wrong. So obviously he's been getting off the vibe. He's been threatening her or forcing her to comply in some way, right? And I would just like to point out just now that without trying to put a dampener on somebody's new year, I would just like to kind of point out to young lassies there and that just be mindful of your own personal security if you're going out at Hogmanay, if you go to nightclubs, you go to events, whatever, because obviously, like, taxis at that time of year are they're all pre-booked. It's double bubble, fucking triple fare, whatever. Because they know they can do that at this time of year, right? No. Obviously somebody like him, he sounds like he knew that, because what I mean by this is, right, you're more likely to get into a taxi at that time of year because, right, we all know how hard it can be. So say you're trying to get from A to B, and you'd been drinking, it's wet, it's cold, it's fucking freezing, and you're just dying to get home, get to the next house party, whatever it is. So you would be more likely to overlook warning signs in somebody. So I would just ask you to be mindful of that if you're going out this year. Just make sure you're not kind of getting into like always look for their ID badge and their number, because they all get a number. It's like coppers with the number on the shoulder, the letter and the number, what division they're in, whatever. Just to kind of keep yourself safe in that, because your parents don't want to be getting a phone call, do you know what I mean, about their kid, and you don't want to be going to hospital or worse. So just keep that in mind when you're going out. Just keep yourself safe in that. You know what I mean? But this poor lassie's obviously she's turned up. She's turned up murdered. Her body was found in it was like an old World War Two cemetery near an army barracks, right? So obviously there's been an appeal for information. The parents have came forward making an appeal. They were pretty heartbroken, as you can imagine. Um, and somehow the police have got on the trail with this guy, David Atkinson, who ironically is from the East Kilbride area. It's a town in South Lanarkshire. It's an area I'm quite familiar with. I go shopping there a lot. Been up and down there all my life, going to the mall. I was actually up there yesterday buying pet food for my lizard. And I was quite shocked when I seen that this guy was fae there, right? Um, because I know the area. And the bit he was from actually had a house that was a stone's throw for his street. I believe it's where his parents are fae, right? I had a small flat there when I first got out of prison. Didn't use it much because obviously I wanted to be in that Cambuslang area. I seen my son had 24-hour access and all that stuff, but it was quite weird to think I could have walked by that guy's house. Um, so what he's done was he's fled his barracks, right? He's went AWOL, um, and he's fled to Glasgow. He's booked his cell into a cheap hotel up in the town centre, and he's been out kind of approaching sex workers, looking for whatever, right? And funnily enough, I think some of them reported to the police after they'd spoken to them, that there was something about him. I said no, I turned him down, but there was one of them that was kind of maybe desperate enough or needed the money, whatever, right, to kind of like entertain him. And he's just been hammering the booze. And she said that when she was like engaging in intercourse or whatever it was, she says he just kept staring out the window as if his mind was just elsewhere. She said she got very, very bad vibes off him. She said there was there was nothing behind his eyes. So obviously she knew, because these lassies are living on the streets, man. They just know. Probably met a lot of weirdos before this one, you know. So the guy's just been hammering the booze, right? And then as soon as he's paid this lassie, she's left. And by this point, the murder squad from Cambridge are already in Glasgow trying to find this guy, right? David Atkinson, they're trying to find him. And there's been I think it's come on the telly. This was about the 8th of January 2005, so they've tracked him down pretty well quickly, but maybe not quickly enough, you know. But I'm not trying to knock them, do you know what I mean? It's just the nature of the job, innit? Um, and the guy has doused this guy when he's seen on the telly in his hotel room that the CID have located this lassie's body. He's wrote a suicide note, doused his cell with a jerry can full of unleaded, and set himself on fire and jumped out the window and landed on the fucking street below. Now, that reason, how he committed suicide was the reason that I remembered this case. So obviously I'd kind of googled it and looked it up and all that, blah blah blah, because I do remember it, and that was how I remembered it. The guy who'd killed a student drove to Glasgow, set himself on fire, and jumped out a hotel window, um, which is fucking, you know what I mean? Must have been out of his mind, but look at what he done in it. No sympathy. And I found it quite weird, right? Because I remember thinking, like, who just wakes up one morning and decides they're gonna go out and troll for a victim? And I think he might have been like 31 at the time or something. So quite, I don't want to say a late starter, right? Because you see, like, a lot of these people who are into this kind of offending, there's got to be a time in the past where they have been accused of this or actually done it. Maybe not even a murder, right, but some sort of offending that would give an indication that they were going to do something like this in the future. And when I looked it up, I found a couple of interesting articles, because remember, this guy's under the MOD, right, Ministry of Defence, and he was serving with the Royal Engineers in some barracks in Cambridgeshire, right, at the time. And it turned out, while he was stationed in Germany, like say 10 years before this murder, he was accused of abducting a woman in Germany, right? But I believe the woman was Polish. He'd abducted her and been accused of maybe doing shit to her, like beating her up or raping her or something. And some of his fellow soldiers had came forward and said that he was always giving off warning signs. He was always going on about women and all this kind of stuff, which is kind of what I would have expected to hear if I was one of these cops investigating him. What I mean is, this would not surprise me, but obviously you get other predators and it's like, I never even heard him say a bad word about women. He was always pulling their chairs out and opening doors for them. You get they types, but they're the really smart ones, they're the really cunning ones. They just blend into the fucking wallpaper, know what I mean? But he sounded like he had just a pathological hatred of women. And that I would have expected this, especially when I'm sure the woman, the sex worker who he'd went with the night before he'd killed himself, I'm sure she was saying things like, I could tell he was really fit and disciplined and quite muscular and all that. So he sounded like the kind of, not a Rambo type, but somebody who's overcompensating for their feelings towards women by the muscles and the fitness, and do you get what I mean? So it sounded like he had a real issue, a deep-seated issue against females. Obviously we'll never know if he was guilty of anything else, because obviously the guy took his life, and my suspicion was that if he hadn't done murders before, I bet you he'd done rapes, which was quite interesting, because I found some media stuff saying he was suspected of being a serial sex attacker. So I found a couple of interesting reports, and I want to read one that was post. So it was 16th of January 2005, right? And it's in the Guardian, which is, it's no tabloid shite, no, but so it says, why the trail of the killer was missed. For years a serving soldier hid behind his clean-cut looks as he carried out a series of sex attacks, but the army had the clues and apparently ignored them. So I think the military are kind of notorious for that, aren't they? Sweeping shit under the rug. He could barely stand, let alone walk. Even so, the drunk crumpled at the bar was still demanding to be served. Just after 2 a.m, he stumbled from the austere lounge of Glasgow's Chorus Hotel back to his room. There he wasted no time raiding the minibar before flicking on the television. A breaking news flash revealed Cambridgeshire police had located the naked body of student Sally Geeson. She had been raped and strangled. The occupant of room 616 tuned into the porn channel. Less than 200 yards away, detectives from Cambridgeshire had long finished drinks at their hotel bar in Anderson, once the city's infamous red light district. News that the body of 22-year-old Sally had been found had left them disconsolate. No, I've never heard that word before, fuck. Unusual for me. They had travelled to Scotland looking for her murderer, and they knew Lance Corporal David Atkinson was not far away. Shortly before 4:30 a.m, the man in the small 6th-floor apartment at the Chorus unscrewed the lid of a jerrycan holding 5 litres of petrol. Soaked in fuel, he fumbled for his matches and then, wreathed in flames, leapt 100 feet to his death. Residents remember a thud, others dismissed the fireball as a gas leak. Officers who searched Atkinson's £35 a night room last Sunday found a scrawled note explaining how he had murdered Sally with his, quote, bare hands, after picking her up in Cambridge while posing as a taxi driver. For the Cambridgeshire detectives, it was case closed. For the army, however, it raised uncomfortable questions over why they had failed to control an employee they knew had a record of extreme violence against women and whom they had put on trial for indecent assault 7 years earlier. On at least 3 occasions, police had told army officials that Atkinson was alleged to have attacked women, yet there is no evidence that the 31-year-old was ever offered help to cure his demons. See, when you've got these kind of demons, there's no such thing as a cure, fuck's sake, man, you kidding me? For many, it is unfathomable how an organisation which has a duty to care for troubled individuals, those whose minds are mangled by the stresses of combat and the rigours of barrack life, could have failed to spot Atkinson's psychological breakdown. Late on Friday night, the Ministry of Defence admitted that police on both sides of the border had identified Atkinson as a person of interest, a serial offender so unstable he might be wanted for a string of unsolved sex attacks and even murders. It'd be interesting to find out what these were, but yet the signs that Atkinson had become a turbulent character capable of sexual deviancy had been evident for years. In the tight-knit community that prevails in military barracks, he openly bragged of attempts to lure young women into his car. Former servicemen say it is inconceivable that senior officials would be unaware of such claims. And the fact that last April he was posted to Waterbeach Barracks, notorious for its proximity to the bars and young students of Cambridge, just 6 miles down the A10, has only aggravated misgivings over the Army's ability to deal with men like Atkinson. Psychologists are unanimous that spotting Atkinson's mental state would not have been difficult. His decision to torture himself in a final blaze of glory is telling. His self-loathing was such that it would have been impossible for him to hide it from those who worked alongside him. Sounds like he was sounds to me like he was narcissistic, because you've got like the hatred of women, like maybe it was rejection in childhood or what, see, like all that old fucking chestnut. You see in a lot of these types, so they just grow up with this hatred of women. So like maybe they fancied the trophy bird at school, and she's fucking laughed at him, hi right, and he's just pure nursing this hatred of women ever since. I don't know, but I would definitely, I expected him to kind of score high in a narcissist assessment, because the core of narcissism is feeling just completely like nothing, so you project this image of you're self-confident and all that shit when on the inside you're the exact polar opposite. So this is a doctor talking. He says, but I think his hatred for others would be far greater. So we're saying about his self-loathing. It says, His decision to torture himself in the final blaze of glory is telling. His self-loathing was such that it would have been impossible for him to hide it from those who worked alongside him. But I think his hatred for others would be far greater, said Dr. Mike Isaac, a consultant psychiatrist at South London and Maudsley NHS Trust. If he was a serial sexual offender, then a hatred of women in general would be certainly a particular element of his makeup. Atkinson was a prolific offender. Despite his short time at Waterbeach, Cambridgeshire police are already aware of 6 women in the area who last week claimed they were attacked by him. More will surely follow. So obviously that's opened up the floodgates, know what I mean? If they'll know what to say, not, and then next thing you know, his face is in the fucking news, know what I mean? Some poor lassie's been abducted, man. Everywhere Atkinson was stationed in his unremarkable 12-year career in the forces, he is likely to have preyed on women. I would suspect that there was a risk wherever he was placed of similar patterns of behaviour, said Ian Stephen, a consultant forensic psychologist and advisor to ITV's criminology series Cracker. It's difficult not to stare at the well-maintained house in Troon Avenue where Atkinson grew up and wonder what turned the baby-faced boy into such a brutal sex offender. His mother Betty and father David are reticent about venturing any clues, with both remaining in hiding last night following their son's self-immolation. Troon Avenue lies in a working class district of East Kilbride, a nondescript satellite town on the outskirts of Glasgow. Although it has a reputation for tough streets, most youngsters rarely require karate to hold their own. Even so, the discipline became Atkinson's first passion in life. By the age of 13, he was a black belt. Fuck. Brought that into disrepute. His trainers recall a lovely wee boy. Although his parents split when he was in his mid-teens, Atkinson appeared to take the break in his stride. Nobody can deduce where his hatred of women first stemmed from. We can't help but think it must have been something that happened in the army that affected him, said his former karate coach, who remains a close friend of the family. Before 1992, when he joined the Royal Engineers as a postie, whatever that is, Atkinson had no criminal record. Now fresh revelations concerning the once well-behaved boy are coming to light by the day. Most stick to the same template, a crude abduction followed by a desperate attempt at a sexual assault that would often conclude in violence. But for years Atkinson's attacks were characterised by another element, luck. Only 18 months before Sally Geeson was murdered, Atkinson attempted to abduct a secretary in Chatham, close to the barracks where he was then serving. Kent police were informed of the attack in May 2003 and subsequently contacted the army. However, the allegations were later withdrawn. It was the same when his former wife Leanne complained to military chiefs in 1996 after Atkinson's volatile temperament led to routine beatings. Again, the complaint was withdrawn. Later, Atkinson would escape charges over an alleged sexual assault on a 17-year-old 3 years ago in Ripon, North Yorkshire, after the claims were dropped. Even when he was caught, Atkinson still managed to squirm through the net. After dragging a young Polish woman into his car and sexually assaulting her, Atkinson was arrested and put on a court-martial. Documents from the judge advocate summing up the case felt that Atkinson's behaviour warranted a spell at a military correction and training centre where he could have been receiving counselling and medical treatment for his disturbing behaviour. Instead, he was fined £1,000 and told by the judge to put this behind you as quickly as possible. Atkinson, however, kept on attacking. It is not known how many times he struck, and it is likely the true figure will never be known. But police forces across Britain are today sifting through new testimonies from potential victims. In Germany, where Atkinson lived between 1995 and 2001, a series of sexual assaults, rapes and murders of a prostitute in Krefeld near Dusseldorf will be re-examined this week. And I'd just like to stop there and say, like, for somebody who was abroad on a military base, nobody's got to know you, so if you're committing stranger offences, what they call stranger murders, stranger rapes, right, most of these crimes are solved because of the connection between the victim and the perpetrator, right? But see if there's no connection, that is extremely difficult to get a successful resolution, you know what I mean? And one case in point, which is ringing bells when I'm reading this, if I don't know if any of you have ever seen like the stuff about Jeffrey Dahmer, how people were coming out and saying while he was stationed in Germany there was unsolved murders, and there was he was like attacking young boys on the base and exposing himself in fucking like children's play parks in the area, and the military were just sweeping it under the fucking rug, you know. Absolute fucking shameful, do you know what I mean? Should be making a fucking example of him, if you ask me. MD like that. Sally Geeson would have felt safe in the Avery pub. After all, she was friends with the young staff serving the New Year's Eve revellers crammed beneath its bright lights. Her gregarious nature meant that although those she had arrived with had left, meeting new companions would never be a chore. For some reason though, she suddenly left, within moments climbing into a tatty H-registered silver Range Rover parked outside Lloyd's TSB a few yards from the pub. Although the car was parked in the middle of the main artery of Cambridge, no one saw the woman with the shock of auburn hair except her final lift. By the time her friends had ushered the last partygoers onto the street at 3 a.m, Sally was dead. Her last text messages begging for help had been delayed in the New Year's Eve telecommunications greetings frenzy. For hours, only Atkinson, who dumped her body in a copse near the village of Madingley, knew she was missing. Although his attacks were marked with acts of seemingly uncontrollable violence, his abductions largely appeared carefully planned. Atkinson was straight only in streets he knew well, and the servicemen knew the bustling historic environs around the Avery intimately. He was a regular drinker in the area during his time in Cambridgeshire and would often pop into the newsagent 20 yards from the Avery entrance with a friend to buy cigarettes, boasting to the staff about his intentions to get drunk. He would come in here telling how he was going to go out and get blotto, then he just disappeared. I thought it was odd until I saw his face in the papers, said a sales assistant at Regent Street convenience store. Atkinson always liked a drink. Indeed, he was disciplined 9 years ago while on duty in Germany for drunkenness. On another occasion, he was rebuked for failing to turn up for training. Most of his colleagues would drink to relieve the tedium of life in Waterbeach Barracks, a windswept based on the flat plains of the Fens. Atkinson, it is now clear, had a different agenda, one no doubt aided by an appearance that seems almost angelic. Army photographs depict a neat, respectable man whose brown eyes offer no clue as to his perverted intentions. A week on from the events at the Chorus Hotel, and the British Army appears unable to explain why Atkinson was allowed to offend so repeatedly. And it is likely that notes on his behaviour during his time in the services will remain confidential, prompting accusations concerning the accountability of the Army. A week after Atkinson left from Room 616, the MOD cannot even reveal a complete picture of precisely where Atkinson served and for how long. Now that Atkinson is gone, some believe attempts may begin to erase his existence. Already, workmen have resurfaced the Charles patches of James Watt Street, where he fell last Sunday morning. A smear of fresh black tarmac now marks his final moments, but for many women his memory will take far longer to smother. Just fucking absolute monster of a guy, man, you know. Sounds like he's guilty a lot more than what he was actually found out for. And to be fair, I don't know, obviously, so he's 31 at the time. To me it sounds like he was engaging in this kind of behaviour for a long time up until then. I would have said for at least 10 years, but obviously I don't know whether he was actually committing like a murder before that, and we'll never know because obviously he committed suicide, but it definitely sounds like there was a pattern stalking women, preying on women, being like abusive and like obviously domestic abuse and all this kind of stuff. So, aye, guy's an absolute fucking scumbag. Um, but that poor lassie, man, you know, just horrendous. And I hope, like, when we're talking about this shit, like, we can, like, it's good to remember that, you know, that this poor lassie's lost her life and she had her whole life ahead of her, and it's just sad, innit, you know? It's horrendous, and I imagine it never gets easier for the families of the victims and that, but just horrendous. And the army should be fucking opening up their files to to Cambridgeshire Police, do you know? That's just what I feel, because you're duty bound by, just if women are coming forward and saying what's happened, you know, like something's happened to them and they believe this guy's the attacker, then I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't give a fuck if I'd signed Official Secrets Act or whatever. You're morally obligated to speak up about things like that. Sex attackers, man, are you kidding me? Do you know what I mean? Serial sex attackers, man. Human rights, man, are you kidding? It's the last thing I'm thinking about. Know what I mean? First you need to be human. Know what I'm talking about? Madness. But I wanted to do that because obviously, like, it, in a way it's like brings awareness to like what happened to that lassie and how obviously she lost her life in the worst of ways. Imagine if you've got a daughter, you can identify like with being the father of a daughter or whatever, do you know. Um, just pray that that never happens to any, you know what I mean? Horrendous, man. Um, and it's almost like that time of year when this happens. So it'll be that poor lassie's anniversary soon, couple of weeks. So it's just horrible. But hope that was insightful, and just shout out to the people that are tuning in and enjoying the channel and that. And um, if any have ever like kind of had experiences of this kind of individual, or if any are watching this that even know him and you want to contact me confidentially, you can find my email address on the page, um, where all the links are and all that, like where it tells you what the channel's about. I can't mind the name, what that section of the page is called. So, or if any want to like reach out about this type of offender, or if you've known somebody like this, just get in touch, man, and we can talk about shit. You know what I mean? But I hope you all have a good festive period, enjoy it with your families and that, and can't wait till this band's up till I start fucking dropping videos. So, you all take care and I'll see you next time I'm on.